Welcome to the inaugural video on the Basic Thoughtonomics YouTube channel. I'm Chris Grosso and just want to start out by saying hope you enjoy the scenic backdrop to my room. I'm a Mets fan. I'm not sure if anything in here would give that away. But yeah, this first visual content here on the Basic Thoughtonomics YouTube channel. I always post the audio for my podcast episodes, Basic Thoughtonomics, up on YouTube. But yeah, if you don't know me, if you don't know my podcast, like I said, it's called Basic Thoughtonomics. Obviously, there's a wrestling reference in there, but it's not like only wrestling related. It's more just like sports encompassing. I just started out as like a platform for me to express my thoughts and opinions on things I was interested in and passionate about, and things I could break down and analyze and dissect. And yeah, it was kind of tough. I just was doing monologues, talking on my own, but it was tough to stay entertaining, to stay upbeat, and I always wanted to do interviews anyway. And fortunately, I found the technology to be able to record interviews over the phone and post them. So I've had on some really good guests in the sports media world on the podcast, including Chris Russo, former host of Mike and the Mad Dog on WFAN, Michael Kay, the play-by-play announcer for the Yankees, Ian Eagle, the play-by-play announcer for the Brooklyn Nets, Anthony DiComo covers the Mets for MLB.com, John Harper covers baseball for SNY, Jackie Redmond, Jameson Coyle of NHL Network. So I've had on some really good guests in the sports media world. I've been blessed about that. And if you don't know me, I guess I have aspirations to be a media personality in general. I don't want to limit it to just being a sports personality. Although I do love sports, love the Mets, obviously. During this pandemic, I've definitely taken up like more hobbies and interests, and been reading a lot. Definitely noticed the benefits from reading, how good that is, how you can connect and just, dissect and break down that stuff as well, connect with other people on that. Also been watching some more film and TV, so enjoyed that too, and maybe in the future I might, break down some of that on a YouTube video or a podcast episode. And I guess I just want to be myself for a living. I want to use my personality, no pun intended. I want to just be the gregarious, charming, charismatic guy I am for work, and use my sense of humor and my interpersonal skills and my relatable personality, which I think will serve me very well. And for this episode, I'm going to try and break down, analyze the Mets season, try and give an outlook of the season this year. And I know it's tough. It's only 60 games, but I'm going to do my best given the way the roster is currently constructed. And I'm going to break down the three components of the team: lineup, bullpen, and starting rotation. And we'll go with there. And I'll touch on the lineup, touch on the 8 different positions, the anticipated starting players there, and we'll go from there. So like I said, we'll start with the lineup. As far as the lineup goes, I think the Mets are set here. I think they have one of the best, if not the best, lineup in the National League. And it's been a while since they've had a lineup this good for 2 years in a row. I can't really think of the last time they've had a lineup this good in successive years since the Willie Randolph era, the 2006 to 2008, 2009, and Jerry Manuel when he took over. During that, I don't think they've had a lineup this good in 2 years since that era. So I'm really optimistic about it. I'll start at catcher, breaking down Wilson Ramos, and I have high expectations for Wilson Ramos, at least offensively. I think he's an above-average catcher in the game. Usually hits for a high average, hits to all fields, has a nice, smooth, sweet swing, which I like. He has some good pop too. When he gets into one, he can hit him as far as anyone. Defensively, he wasn't the best last year throwing out base runners. Obviously, there was the issue with him and Noah Syndergaard. They couldn't really get on the same page last year, but obviously that won't be an issue this year with Syndergaard missing the year due to Tommy John surgery. But from an offensive standpoint, I have high expectations for him. Might be able to DH a little more this year as well, because the DH is going to be implemented in the National League, so maybe that'll help prevent some wear and tear on the legs from crouching down back there. So as far as catcher goes, I have high expectations there. First base, Pete Alonso. What more can you say? Obviously, he's not going to put up numbers like he did last year, but I think even if he doesn't put up the numbers he did last year relative, like on pace with that 162 game season, like that doesn't mean he's not going to have a good year. I don't know if he'll ever have as good a year as he had his rookie year, which is crazy considering how good it was. 53 homers, over 120 RBIs, but even like down the road in normal seasons, when we get back to 162 game seasons, if he's giving you 40 and 100 every year, like who the frig's not going to take that? And defensively too, he definitely performed a lot better than I think what most people anticipated with him, with the scouting report coming up from the minors. So as far as first base, Mets are set there as well. Nothing but high expectations there. Second base, Robbie Cano. I expect a bounce back year from him. I don't think he's done yet. I don't think he's finished. I know he's obviously a little up there in age. Struggled last year. I don't know if that was more just like an adjustment coming back to New York. But like physically, I don't think he's declined that much. I still think he has that like sweet, smooth swing that Robbie Cano always had. It was the first 9 years of his career with the Yankees and the last 5 with the Mariners. And I know some people are skeptical about, that PED thing that happened in 2018, but I just think maybe he just unknowingly took something. I don't put like too much stock into that, into what we're going to see like further down the road for him. I think if he were to decline, it would probably just due to like natural causes and to age. But yeah, from what I saw last year, I think he's, could still be the Robbie Cano of old. And so I'm hoping for a big year out of him too. It's not like he's an automatic out or anything like that. So yeah, that's second base. Shortstop, Ahmed Rosario. Hopefully he can take another step forward this year. I don't think he's ever achieved those expectations that were once had for him. Like he was the number 3 overall ranked prospect in the game at one point. But he's definitely taken a lot more strides and came on really strong last year in the second half. Hit pretty well for average. Solid defensively. Still very young too, 24 years old. So, he still has time to grow and get better. And I think that'll happen as he gets more acclimated to playing. So that's thoughts on Rosario at shortstop. Third base, Jeff McNeil. And what more can you say about him? Obviously, expect him to get better. And obviously, he's not going to put up the numbers like he did last year or like home runs and RBI-wise. Even if he takes a step down in average, I mean, you can't really get too wrapped up in it. I think just in general, it's hard to, hold players to like to standards this year because of, how different this season is. But yeah, in terms of McNeil, I just continue to expect him to hit for like a great average like he's done. Spray the ball to all fields. I'd rather see him hit the ball to all fields too. In the second half, it seemed he was more hitting for power and the average went down as a result. But I think he's better when he's just slashing the ball to all fields, hitting for that high average. So expect nothing but great things from him so far this year too. So I think the infield's pretty set. Go to the outfield now, and Michael Conforto. Looks like he's going to be ready to start the season. He wouldn't have been ready if the season were to have started on time in March because of a oblique issue, but he looks like he's going to be ready. Had a pretty good year last year, over 30 home runs, 90 RBIs. Average wasn't where you'd probably like to see it, especially given the expectations for him coming out of college. He had more of this reputation as he was going to be just kind of pure hitter, just and hit for a pretty good average as well. So average is around 250. Hopefully this year and going forward, hits higher than that. But like I said, great year last year. I think 2017 was his best year. I think it's unfortunate his season came to an end early that year. But he seems to have a good year, bad year, good year, bad year. That's the trend with him. So hopefully he continues to keep it up this year too. Center field, Brandon Nimmo, probably the one like weakest link in the lineup. He draws walks, gets on base, has high energy, plays good defense. But in terms of like maybe a weak link in the lineup, I think it's here. I don't think he's really reached the expectations that were expected of him, being like the 13th or 14th overall pick back in 2011. But yeah, I mean, if he's the weakest spot in your lineup, I think the Mets are pretty like well off with that. So yeah, if he's in center field, no problems with that. Left field, probably going to be J.D. Davis And like what a surprise he was last year. Probably the best acquisition Brody Van Wagenen made, but that's probably not saying much because he made some more high profile acquisitions, especially with the Robinson Cano, Edwin Diaz deal. But yeah, what a pleasant surprise. Hit over 300, over 20 home runs. Probably not the best defensively in left field, but I think his offense will make up for it. Yeah, if he continues to keep that up, like what a find, what a steal for the Mets. So that'll round out the 8 positions, and then of course you got to go DH, and hopefully looks like it's going to be what Cespedes says he looks healthy, says he's ready to go, and just imagine what kind of a boost he would be, even if he's half of the player he was from the 2015 season, and you just think about the player he was back then and the way he could just carry a lineup. And I know there's a little skepticism about him, whether he's going to be able to run the bases, play in the outfield, but I'm not too much concerned about that now. I think if he can hit for power like he did, I think that will kind of offset him having to run the bases, especially obviously hitting home runs, don't have to run the bases. But yeah, if he's just some semblance of the player he was 4 or 5 years ago, imagine what kind of a boost that would be to this team. This was a great lineup last year without him. Imagine just how good they could be with him if he's some semblance of the player he was. So that'll round out the lineup. I think it's, like I said, has the potential to be one of the best lineups in the National League. And next, I'll touch on the starting rotation. Starting rotation obviously starts with Jacob deGrom, one of the best, if not the best pitcher in the game, coming off back-to-back Cy Young Award campaigns. And watch, I'm going to predict it this year. He's going to have close to as many wins this year in a 60-game season as he's had the past few years in 162-game seasons. I just have a feeling that's going to be the way that things shake out this year, and it would just be so Mets-like for that to happen. But expect nothing but the best from him, anchoring the rotation. Number 2 slot's going to be Marcus Stroman sliding in there where Noah Syndergaard would have been. And Stroman struggled a little bit coming over from the Blue Jays last year. Just wasn't the same pitcher in the second half of the season when he came to the Mets. But I love his game though. When he's pitching, when he's on his game, when he's right, he's got that good two-seam fastball that moves, good slider, good secondary stuff. So yeah, when he's on his game, he's a very capable number 2 starter in the game. So hopefully, he gets acclimated to that second year in New York. He's a Long Island guy from the area. Hopefully, he just fits him better, being that he'll start with the team this year. So that's Stroman in the number 2 slot. Number 3 slot's going to be Steven Matz, and I think this is a big year for Matz. It's been a very up and down career for Steven Matz. I don't think he's achieved the expectations that were placed upon him when he first came up in 2015. I think he was part of that pipe dream that everyone was envisioning, the Mets having the 5 aces, and he's never really pitched up to those expectations or pitched like an ace. Not even really pitched at that number 2 level. But yeah, I think this is a big year for him. He's 29. It's going to be his 6th year in the league, and I think he's got to prove himself, even though it's a shortened season. I think this is a big year for him. And similar to Stroman, he's got good stuff when he's on his game. Mid-90s fastball for a lefty, good curve when he's locating, when he's on his game, good secondary stuff. So I think this is a big year for him. Similar to Stroman, he could be kind of boom or bust. We've obviously saw last year he's had some clunkers. Didn't record an out. One game versus the Phillies last year, gave up 8 runs. Went to the bullpen last year, but obviously pitched a little better in the second half of the season. So we'll see. A big year for Mets. So could be up or down. Hopefully he's good for the Mets. And to round out the rotation, you got Rick Porcello, Michael Wacha. Rick Porcello, I don't know. Expectations aren't too high for him. He had a really bad year last year. Pitched to a 5.52 ERA. The trend with him throughout his career has been good year, bad year, good year, bad year. But he does have that Cy Young on his resume, though, back in a couple years ago, 2016, 2017. So that kind of makes you feel a little optimistic. He has that under his resume, and maybe he could get back to being that pitcher. He's only 31, so well in the prime of his career. Pitched better in the second half of Boston last year. He wasn't relying on the analytics as much. He was more just pitching to his game, trying to pitch lower in the zone. But we'll see. Like I said, expectations not too high for him, but hopefully he's good. And Michael Wacha to round out the rotation. And similar to Steven Matz, hasn't really achieved the expectations placed upon him in his career. Came up with the Cardinals early on, was one of the most highly touted pitchers coming up in the game, but hasn't really achieved those expectations, but still has good stuff. I mean, he's a number 5 starter. I think, what do you expect? I think he'll pitch better than the typical number 5 starter, but I think this move was a kind of a low risk, high reward kind of move for the Mets. So we'll see. And those are the 5 guys in the rotation. Could be like, outside of Jacob deGrom, it could be kind of like a boom or bust for a lot of these guys. So we'll see. And I think the bullpen's in a similar position, being a boom or bust type of performance that we might see from them. So that's starting rotation. Next, I'll talk about the bullpen. And we'll start with Edwin Diaz, presumably going to be the closer for the team this year. Obviously coming off a disastrous year last year, but I'm hoping for a bounce back year from him. He's only 26, well in the prime of his career. Hopefully he'll be able to figure things out. Maybe it was an adjustment to New York. Hopefully he can replicate and be that pitcher he was in 2018, where he was just one of the most dominant closers in the game. And despite the poor year last year, he still had like that really good stuff. His strikeout rate was still extremely high. In his fastball, when he's on his game, like that fastball, it's a riser, like 100 miles an hour. That thing is freaking hard to hit. And I think it was just more location issue with him. His slider, he didn't locate it that well. Left that out over the plate a lot. But his slider too, he's got a great slider when he's on his game and is throwing strikes and has his command. So hopefully he can be some semblance of that player he was in 2018 with the Mariners. And I'm not giving up hope on him, and I'm hoping he has a bounce back year. And then we'll go to Seth Lugo, presumably going to be the setup man, and expect nothing but good things from him. He's been very valuable in that role for the Mets, being a guy who could go multiple innings. Really good stuff, mid-90s fastball, great biting curveball. He's probably the one guy in the bullpen where you feel most comfortable with, and you have a sure thing with him. So expect nothing but good things from Lugo. And Dellin Betances, coming over from the Yankees, he's a big wild card here. If he could be some semblance of the player he was with the Yankees, he's like one of the most dominant relievers when he's on his game. I remember in 2014, I think 2014 when he first came up, a Subway Series, he was pitching at Citi Field against the Mets, and he just struck out the side in one of the most dominant reliever innings I've ever seen. And like similar to Diaz, when he's on his game, he could be lights out. Just that high 90s fastball, that, oh my God, his slider, like that thing is nasty when he's feeling right and he's throwing that right. What a boost he could be to the Mets if he stays healthy and pitches to his capabilities. So similar to Diaz, like someone who could be like boom or bust. Hopefully he's a boom. And then go to Jerry's Familia, and this is the one guy I'm a little worried about. Obviously was great 5 years ago. Mets going to the World Series. He just kind of hasn't been that same pitcher since 2016 when he gave up that home run to Connor Gillespie in the wild card game against the Giants. Then he had that thoracic outlet surgery, the same thing Matt Harvey had, and I'm a little worried that he might not get back to that level that he was at before. So struggled last year, was hurt. A little skeptical about him, hoping for a bounce back, but expectations aren't too high for him, to be honest. Robert Gsellman, he's been up and down throughout his career, but has some good stuff. Mid-90s, pretty good slider, pretty good changeup. It'll be interesting to see with him. He's been around for a while here. This will be, I think, his 5th year now with the team. Shown some flashes, been really good, and sometimes hasn't been as good, but still think the upside's there, and I'm not going to hit on every guy, but last I'll mention is Justin Wilson. Looking for a good year from him. Really good, can get both lefties and righties out. Good stuff, good velocity on his pitches. He'll have to play a more important role this year, given that there's a 3-batter minimum. But yeah, hoping for good things from him, hoping for another bounce back from him. And similar to the rotation, I think this part of the team could be very boom or bust. If it's a boom, I mean, imagine how friggin' good they're going to be. If it's a bust, then it could be a disaster. So, yeah, like I said, other than Seth Lugo, a lot of what ifs, but high upside there. So, looking for the high upside to come through. That'll kind of conclude thoughts on the bullpen. So that'll conclude the 3 components of the team I'm breaking down. And as far as prediction goes, I think the Mets are going to be in the race all year. Obviously, lineup is one of the best in the game. And as I said, rotation, bullpen could be very boom or bust. If it's a boom, like imagine this team would be one of the best teams, not in the National League, but in the game. And the thing is, they play in a very tough division. They got the defending champs and the Nats in there. I know it probably benefits the Mets. You hate to see guys opt out and not play, but Ryan Zimmerman's opting out, Joe Ross opting out. So that, unfortunately, it helps the Mets. But I still think the Nats are going to be a good team. Still got that, top of the rotation, one of the best in the game with Scherzer and Strasburg and Corbin. So expect them to be a factor. Phillies as well, they're an improved team. Signing Zach Wheeler, signing Didi Gregorius, Andrew McCutchen, presumably going to get a healthy year from him. So I think the Phillies are going to be an improved team as well. Got the Braves as well, back-to-back defending division champs in the NL East. We'll see, though. I think this Freddie Freeman thing could be a factor. Obviously, unfortunately, came down with COVID. Obviously, hope he gets back. But unfortunately for the Braves, if he's not there, it's going to be obviously a huge loss. Best player on the team, and it would really benefit the Mets because he's a Met killer. He kills the Mets. So also Will Smith, one of their high-profile acquisitions, the reliever from the Giants, he came down with the virus as well. So Braves have a little issues right now. But if they're healthy, they're definitely going to be a factor. They're going to be in the race. So I think that's probably the biggest hindrance for the Mets is that they play in such a tough division. I don't know. I don't know. I said I would give a prediction. I don't know. I'm not going to predict exactly where they're going to finish, like win the division. But I will say they're going to be in the race all year. And if they get to the playoffs, I have a feeling they're going to have just as good a chance to anyone to get to the World Series and win the whole thing. So that's my kind of, I guess, preview outlook for the Mets' upcoming 2020 season. Thank God we're finally getting baseball next week. Should be a lot of fun. But yeah, like I said, the inaugural video on the Basic Thoughtonomics YouTube channel. Hope you guys enjoyed this if you watched. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet for the next episode. Maybe I'll give a preview on the Yankees. But we'll see. But thanks again so much for watching, and take care. Hope you guys have a great day.